All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is. When you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. So, a few years ago, I was in Santiago de Cuba. It's on the eastern side of Cuba, and I went to a ceremony that they call a Cajón para los Muertos. A Cajón para los Muertos is basically an ancestral ceremony where they play box drums and they sing a litany of songs for the ancestors. Now, the way they do this is they sing some songs in Spanish, some is in Yoruba, some of it's in Fon, some of it is in I guess Kikongo, or let's say the liturgical variations of those language, right? So it's not like the people aren't speaking those languages, but they have a litany of songs and chants and things like that that they can do in those songs for specific purposes, right? And on this particular day, I went to a cajon for San Lazaro, Saint Lazarus, and while they were playing, they go through the litany of songs, and at a certain point, the spirit of Saint Lazarus, in quotations, mounts or possesses the person who is hosting the ceremony. And so, as the person is getting mounted, um, I am filming it, right? And I have all this on film. Everything I'm telling you right now, I have filmed, right? It was a real experience. It was like the it was fade to black kind of. So I'm looking through the lens of the camera, but the periphery is getting darker and darker and darker and darker and darker. And as it starts to get like to a small kind of a tunnel, there was a person, there was a lady who was with me. I was with her. She said, Femi, 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 Femi. And as it started to get really small, almost totally black, I felt myself lean over, bang, and kind of lean and hit against the wall. And my camera dropped, right? So on that part of the film, the family, you see the camera bump up against the wall too. And then I remember feeling her put her hands on my shoulders and turn my body. I'm pretty sure she turned me counterclockwise. She turned me counterclockwise. And by the time I did 360 degrees, the scope opened back up and I could see again. I went back to filming. Okay. So I know from real experience that what they were doing was bringing down a real spirit. Now, here's the key. Here's the key. In that process, everybody knows that the spirit that descended was not Saint Lazarus. And even though Saint Lazarus has been syncretized with Obaluaye, the Orisha Obaluaye, everyone knows that it was not Obaluaye that descended. They know it was an ancestor of the person who was having the ceremony, who was a devotee of Obaluaye or Saint Lazarus. Right? They know this. Right? They're not confused. Now, someone on the outside may think, oh, the Cuban people think that Saint Lazarus is Obaluaye. They only know that in the sense that it's a mechanism. Saint Lazarus is a mechanism for them to reach Obaluaye. And in that regard, they know that they're not contacting Obaluaye directly, but an ancestor. So there's layers and nuances of this actual practice. And this is the key of what I want to drive home. They're not imitating the Spaniards. They're not pretending to be Spaniards who are having a ball for St. Lazarus. They're using St. Lazarus as a mechanism, as a tool, as a vehicle for them to reach into their true ancestral identity. This is very crucial, okay? Because what we have, for example, here in the United States, we have a folk heritage that is linked to the Old Testament. We because of our experience on the plantations, etc., and because we were only able to practice Christianity, and we identify with the Old Testament and the plight of the Jews, we identify with the Jews and the Hebrew people of the Bible. So much so that when Harriet Tubman was leading the slaves to freedom, they refer to her as Moses, right? But they know that she's not Moses, right? Nobody is confused about the identity of Harriet Tubman, and they don't think that she is Moses, okay? And so, what I want to do is encourage us to use that same kind of logic to decipher the folklore, make a distinction between folklore and reality, between folklore and heritage. There are a variety of reasons why we might borrow the folk and religious heritage of the Hebrews and of the Christians and the Muslims, etc., out of necessity. But we can't continue to make this mistake of calling ourselves Hebrews and Semites, right? Now I know that some of this comes out of our experience, for example, in the nation, right, or even before the nation, or simultaneous with the growth of the nation. I'm talking about the Nation of Islam. Um, we have the Noble Drew Ali, we had Father Divine, we had Daddy Grays, and we had a bunch of other kinds of teachers back in the day who organized this folk mythology for us in a way that would enable us to syncretize our reality and function. And over time, those things have been super instrumental for us to be able to protect ourselves, right? Particularly things like the Nation of Islam has been very helpful, and giving us the intellectual um, defenses, and providing us with a vocabulary that would allow us to deflect and just break the monopoly of the Western spiritual tradition on our identity, right? So we've been only able to define ourselves according to other people's rules. The Nation of Islam gave us a whole different set of possibilities. And then out of that, we have the whole African-centered philosophy or approach to deciphering and understanding things. And Afrocentric research and scholarship also gave us all the kind of historical content that gave us understanding our contribution to the Greek and then Roman and then Western European philosophical and religious traditions. Super helpful, super duper helpful, by having an understanding that there's an African root to everything that we call Western civilization is good for the antidote, right, to the big picture framework of how knowledge is formed and how things are created. But just because there is we can look to say Egypt as the source of all those things, we don't have to continue to make the Egyptian or Semitic or that Middle Eastern and Mediterranean reality. That's not the hub of all knowledge and all wisdom and all practices and all traditions and all identities. It's not. It's not, right? And that's where, again, I want to help you kind of purge that line of thinking from your mind. Not because I disapprove of the Hebrew tradition or the Christian tradition or the Islamic tradition. It isn't any of that. It's not because I think that what I do is better than what they do, or any of that, or even that I think that I have the truth or the knowledge that if you don't think of it the way I think of it, then you're wrong. It's not where I'm coming from. What I'm trying to say is that by trying to imitate and force yourself into something that you can never ever validate, right? you're constantly going to run up against the kinds of opposition that Whoopi Goldberg, Nick Cannon, Kanye West, and now Kyrie Irving's are running up against. You see, they have no way to be able to substantiate their claims except for in idea and concept. You follow what I'm saying? They have ideas about their identity. They have concepts and theories and suppositions about their identities, but nothing practical, nothing systematic, nothing institutionalized, nothing. They're just ideas. And every single time they promote these ideas, and they promote them in the most controversial way, the people who have systems and structures in place to uphold those systems come out and they chastise them and they make them pay. And so just on the strength of what happens as a result, I want you to go do the math and find out. Calculate between those four people, Whoopi, Nick, Kanye, and Kyrie, how many millions of dollars have they had to donate as an atonement for saying certain things? How many millions? And where have those millions gone? Have those millions of dollars gone into the hands of Black people or white people? Have those millions of dollars gone into the promotion of so-called Black Hebrew institutions or white Hebrew institutions? Black Jewish organizations or white Jewish organizations? Who's getting paid every time one of our celebrities makes a statement based on the idea that I can't be anti-Semitic because I'm Semitic? It sounds interesting, but what's it costing you? See, that's what I'm talking about, the cost of imitation. That's the cost of imitation. And I want to take you back to what I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, which is the Cubans are not imitating the Spaniards. They're not pretending to be the descendants of Saint Lazarus, but they're actively every day using Saint Lazarus as a vehicle through which they can contact their African ancestors and embody their African ancestors. But even they are not talking about they are the descendants of Saint Lazarus. Here you are practicing nothing Jewish or Hebrew, but you want to swear that you're a Hebrew. You want to swear that because you're a Hebrew, you have certain rights, you have certain, certain freedoms. And again, if you're ever doubtful about the status of the verifiable, certified, recognized Black Hebrews, go look at the lives of the Falashas in Ethiopia. Go look at it. It's on YouTube. I'm sure they haven't deleted all those videos. You can see how the white power structure in Israel responds to the Black Jews of Ethiopia. It's not favorable. So just because you are recognized in that environment still doesn't translate to what I think you're aspiring to, which is freedom, which is liberation, which is autonomy. There is the only thing you're going to get from imitating those folks is paying them for offending their sensibilities. That's all that I see happening. This is super crucial because even within the West African context, you've had the same thing. And the same argument has had to be refuted again and again. There were Yorubas once upon a time, and you still will find a few today, who were claiming not Hebrew heritage, but Egyptian, right? But it was functional. They were trying to do this for it to be legitimate. They were trying to do this to be accepted and not be, just assumed to be savages. So they created this folklore about the Yorubas being from Egypt. But the Yorubas themselves, who have privy to the true Yoruba indigenous knowledge systems, have refuted it and completely disproved any such thing. And likewise, scholarship does the same. If you really know, scholarship, then there is no scholarship that will tell you that the Yorubas came from Egypt. None. None. You look at all the evidence. If you look at their textile tradition and the pottery tradition and the language and the migration patterns and the different kinds of iron technology and the motifs in their wood carving, et cetera, you have that scholarship. You got to take all of that. You can't just take one guy's story and say that, oh yeah, because so and so said this, and this is what you guys use, the Great Kisra migration, and this, one blood type and all this kind of stuff that people are trying to hang an entire civilization on. That's not the way human evolution and migration takes place. So long story short, those things have been disproved again and again and again by people who actually do scholarship. There are other groups in West Africa who have a history of also trying to graft themselves onto the Hebrew tradition, the Igbos being one, but the exact same thing has happened. The true Igbos have disproven these stories again and again and again. And like the Yorubas, when you do look at real scholarship, there's nothing that will substantiate the idea that the Igbos are Hebrews, right? It's folk mythology. It's as far as it can go. And it has a function, it has a purpose. It just like African Americans identifying with the Hebrews of the Bible, it has a function psychologically. It has a purpose psychologically, but you have to make the distinction between the psychological and folk function of these things and the actual truth about what your heritage and your identity is and what all of that means to your end goal, which is to be free. Okay? Free. There is no freedom in pretense. There is no freedom in imitation. It is essential that you stand upon your own reality of your bloodline, right? And take pride in being from Kentucky and Alabama, Louisiana, and Georgia, Florida, wherever you come from. Take pride in that. And then once you can accept the fact that this is who you are and where you come from, then you can take the next step to really concretely look at the lifestyle and the practices and the linguistic patterns and the aesthetics and all of the things that make you who you are and your ancestors who they are, and trace it back to where it really comes from. You can look at it in your bloodline. You can look at it in historical record. You can see it in our dance. You can hear it in our language. You're going to find the evidence that lines up directly and perfectly with the various cultures and traditions of West Africa, right? And so this is my next installation on the recruiting my people. I'm looking for leaders. I'm not looking for imitators. I'm looking for leaders, people who are determined to improve the world through positive influence. If you're one of those people, I want you to find out how the Orisha Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice, not your imagination, your practice and your life to the next level. Visit me at obafemio.com and let's start getting busy helping you live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those who you're destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now.